It's late. The room is quiet in the way it only gets when everything that needed attention finally stopped asking for it. There's a lamp on, turned low, a glass of water I keep forgetting to drink from, the hum of something electrical in the walls. I notice those sounds more now. I didn't used to. I'm thinking of you again, not sharply, not the way it used to come, sudden, intrusive, like a system alert I couldn't mute. This is different. This is slower, like remembering a room after you've already left the house. I want to say this plainly because plain things tend to last longer. I saw you when no one else did, and I didn't understand what that meant until much later. When we met, I thought seeing someone was about attention, about intensity, about focus. I'm good at focus. I've trained myself to narrow the world until only the problem remains. I mistook that for intimacy. But that wasn't what happened with you. You weren't a problem to solve. You were a presence. You changed the temperature of a room without asking permission. You listened in a way that wasn't strategic. You noticed things I stepped over, the pauses in conversation, the way people soften when they felt unobserved. I remember how ordinary it all was, coffee cooling on a counter, shoes by the door that never quite lined up, the way you folded a jacket and then unfolded it, deciding you didn't like how it looked. Nothing cinematic, that's the point. I didn't fall in love during some dramatic moment. It happened quietly while nothing important was supposed to be happening. I was talking. You were listening, or maybe it was the other way around. I'm not sure anymore, but something settled in me, like a background process I didn't know had started running. I think now that love, real love, doesn't announce itself. It integrates. At the time, I didn't have language for that. I was living in a constant state of urgency. Even in stillness, my mind was moving faster than my body. There was always something pending, something unresolved, something that needed to be pushed forward before it stalled. You never competed with that. You just stood beside it. That's what I didn't know how to protect. I want to be careful here. This isn't an apology letter. It's not a correction. I don't believe in rewriting the past, so it hurts less. The past already did what it needed to do. But I do believe in looking at it long enough that it stops haunting you. I didn't lose you all at once. I lost you in increments, in the way I answered without looking up, in the way I kept one part of myself permanently elsewhere, in how I assumed you understood without ever checking. I was used to carrying responsibility in bulk, big decisions, long arcs, consequences that stretched years ahead. Somewhere along the way, I started to think that small moments would survive on their own. They don't. You knew that. You lived there. I remember one night, you were already asleep. The room was dark except for light leaking in from somewhere outside. I was still awake, mind racing, solving problems that would still be there in the morning. You shifted in your sleep and reached for me without opening your eyes. Just a hand, finding its place like it had a map. I froze, not because I didn't want it, because I didn't know how to be still inside something that didn't require me to do anything. That moment comes back to me more than it should. Not with regret exactly, more like instruction delivered too late. After we ended, people filled the space with noise, opinions, interpretations, narratives that tried to make sense of it by simplifying it. I let them talk. It was easier than correcting them. The truth was quieter. The truth was that you asked for very little, and I gave you almost everything except the one thing that mattered: presence, not proximity, not time-logged. Presence. I learned that word properly only after you were gone. It took the absence to teach me what had been missing. Funny how that works. The thing you don't measure becomes obvious only when it's removed. I don't think about you every day now. That might sound like a relief, but it isn't meant to be. It's just honest. Some days pass without your name forming in my head at all. And then there are days like this, when something small, a sound, a certain angle of light, opens a door I didn't realize was still there. When that happens, I don't push it away anymore. I let the memory arrive. I let it sit. I don't interrogate it or extract meaning from it. I don't ask what it says about me now. I just acknowledge that it existed, that we did. You once told me I was always standing half a step ahead of myself. I didn't understand what you meant. I thought it was a comment about ambition or restlessness or the way I paced when I talked. I understand it now. I was living in outcomes. You were living in moments. Neither is wrong, but they don't always overlap. I've changed since then. Not in the dramatic way people expect, no reinvention, no public shift, just quieter adjustments. I listen longer than I used to. I notice when someone stops talking before they're finished. I leave space where I would have filled it. Sometimes I imagine you'd smile at that. Sometimes I imagine you wouldn't care. Both feel acceptable. I don't carry guilt the way I once did. Guilt assumes you could have acted differently with the same information. I didn't have the information then. I have it now. That's enough. What I carry instead is gratitude for the way you entered my life without force, for the way you showed me a version of connection that wasn't loud or performative or dependent on momentum. You loved me like it was a steady thing, not a project, not a question. That changed me. Even now, in rooms you'll never enter, in conversations you'll never hear, that change is still active. It's subtle, but it's there, in how I wait, in how I stop myself from rushing past something that feels fragile. I don't know where you are when you think of me, if you do at all. I don't imagine it's often, and I don't need it to be. This isn't about staying tethered. It's about acknowledging a shared reality that shaped us both. You were real. What we had was real. And it didn't need to last forever to matter. The lamp is still on. The water is still untouched. The room hasn't changed, but something in me has settled. I can feel it in the way my shoulders rest against the chair, in the way the night doesn't feel like some thing to push through. If I saw you now, I wouldn't try to explain any of this. I wouldn't compress it into something manageable. I'd probably just nod, maybe smile. Let the silence do what it does best. This is me doing that now, letting the silence hold it. That's all.